Hey, welcome back to another edition of Open Shutter, where we have the pleasure of Jeff Vogan on with us again. He was with us a few months back, and I figured I'd invite him back to see what he's been up to, because he's been up to lots of things. And if you haven't watched that episode, the previous one with Jeff, I encourage you to do so. And yeah, if you don't know who I am, my name is Paul, based in the Toronto area. And you're on my YouTube channel. So if you're interested in vlogs, documentaries, or this show, please check me out. And if you're coming from Jeff's side and you don't know who I am, same kind of deal. Make all kinds of stuff and like to talk to people, because I think that's just the power of social media, is you get to talk to people with different experiences and approaches. And I think that's just how you learn. So thanks again to Jeff. Kind of like a shameless plug, but the group that I manage with Get Out to Toronto, Jeff is going to be doing like a little kind of like a workshop in a way on Friday on Zoom, Friday at 8. So if you're interested in learning to get out of auto or P mode, come to the Zoom, because it's a lot of fun. And Jeff's going to teach a whole bunch of the fundamentals of photography, which I think, even if you've been at it a while, I think it's always good for like a refresher. So check that out at getoutoshoot.com. And yeah, I think it's going to be a fun show. If you guys have questions for Jeff, because Jeff has worked with a whole wide array of clients, including Golf Canada. He just shot the RBC tournament not too long ago. So he has lots of cool stories. And yeah, thanks, Jeff, for taking the time again. Maybe for the viewers who kind of don't know who you are, maybe a quick intro about yourself.
Sure. My name is Jeff Vogan. I'm a commercial sports photographer based in Toronto. Been at this as a full-time professional photographer for about 6 years now. I was always a fan. If you notice the business name Sport Dad, I got my start. I got my first camera as a graduation gift. Was taking a million pictures. They were all terrible, so I stopped taking pictures until years later. Got married, had a kid, and he started playing sports. So started photographing him, and and then one day, almost 7 years ago, decided the corporate life was no longer of interest, and hung up my shingle to be a professional photographer. And since then, I've shot for Skate Canada, Swimming Canada, Dive Canada, NFL, CFL, MLS, Major League Baseball, Under Armour, Fox Sports, and it's been it's at times I feel guilty calling it work, because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's fun, right? It's fun. Yeah, I think a lot of us, we try to think of a way to like transition your passion into like a career. I think we probably touched upon this on the last show that you were on, but maybe like any advice for people that want to kind of slowly make that transition into making like a career out of photography? Like any tips for people?
Yeah, it literally is the question I get most often. It's like, how do you make that? I have a passion for photography. I love sports photography. I want to turn that into my profession. I'm, a few years further ahead than people that are just, starting down that path. I kind of took a lot of pictures. I had the good fortune of having a son that was very active in a number of sports. So I was the dad on the sideline, often coaching and taking pictures at the same time. And then, other players were asking for pictures, and the other teams and the leagues and the clubs, and, it just kind of grew. And then one day it's like, why don't I do this, try and do this full time. And, it's lost a couple of years with COVID. So, I've kind of been full time for, probably more accurately, like 5 years, 4 years. But my background in the computer industry has really helped me. My first job, I think we talked about this last time. My first job as a professional, a big event that I was doing, I shot for Skate Canada, and I produced over 85,000 images in 4 days. So 16 hours of shooting a day, 85,000 pictures, and I was under contract to deliver them with each image named after the skater in a folder named after the skater. So that part took me 3 weeks. And that's really 3 weeks that you're not getting paid for, right?
No.
So kind of figured out, I started using a software product called Photomechanic, which is really the industry standard for photojournalists, sports photographers, and a lot of wedding photographers also use it. It's basically a fast photo browser that allows all sorts of, it's just fast. Many of the listeners of this podcast will be, users of Photoshop or Lightroom or Capture One. And those tools are great for manipulating pixels, but they're not great at the culling and the captioning and, kind of that part of it. So it's, Photomechanic was something that I really leaned into. And it has absolutely changed my business. So after that, learning experience of that first event, I started using Photomechanic, and I since figured out a way to automate it. So I now, since that first one, I did an event for Skate Canada. It was over 100,000 images. And you put the card in the card reader, and it automatically renames, creates folders, done. So
there's no admin work on your side.
Yeah, what took me 3 weeks before now is completely automated.
Yeah, so, that's the way to do it if you're talking about like 85,000 images.
Well, even like, I do workflow workshops now. And I do one-on-ones as well. And I was doing a one-on-one with a photographer based out of Los Angeles just a few weeks ago, and he competes. He takes red carpet pictures. That's what he does. Okay. So he's got
celebrities, right?
Oh yeah, celebrities. Yeah. So he's got pictures of, Jennifer Lopez and, yada, so they're on the red carpet. And he's competing with other agencies. So there are other photographers, and basically it's a race to see how quickly you can get the picture out. Right. Because the first one out is more likely to be sold. So we went through his workflow, and what he was doing is he was ingesting into Lightroom and then doing some culling and then putting it back into Photomechanic to do the captioning and whatever. And I'm like, no.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do it that way. Yeah. So we literally took him from, 15 minutes worth of work to, a minute worth of work.
Crazy.
So that's 14 minutes faster getting, going from the shutter click to delivering the image. I did a photo, like I was shooting a swim meet, and there was, world record holder, one of the Canadian Olympians, and she dives into the pool. I, get the dive, get a bunch of strokes, and then quickly ingest the images. It's automatically captioned, and I posted the images to Instagram, and I walk over to her coach and I say, "Hey coach, I'm talking to the coach where he's flipping through my phone, looking at the pictures of his swimmer."
Yeah.
She walks over. She's toweling off now. She got out of the pool. Yeah. And by the time she's out of the pool, I already had them posted on Instagram.
Crazy.
And, she comes over, and the coach and her are like examining her technique.
Yeah.
And when I shoot for Golf Canada, I can take a picture, the typical Sunday morning picture is the leader teeing off. Mm-hmm. I can have it posted on, I can have it on Twitter, Dropbox, my Smug Mug site, Golf Canada's Photo Shelter site, before the guy hits his second shot.
That's wild.
So it's captioned, all of that sort of stuff, and it's posted to all of those services within, like under a minute.
Wow.
So
that's wild, man.
That's been what I, and frankly, I, through the COVID period when a lot of the sports were shut down, that's when I kind of leaned into a little bit more of the efficiency and automation, and then started teaching. And now I'm one of 6 Camera Bits ambassadors. Camera Bits, the makers of Photomechanic software, and I'm the only one that shoots sports. So some of my students, like I teach a lot of like professional, like major league sports, team photographers, wire service photographers. I teach my workflow to them. And that was a good piece of business while I was, kind of shut down with COVID.
Yeah. And you're still teaching?
Yeah, I am. And so I've got a couple of workshops. So I've just launched the Getting Started with Photo Mechanic, because there are a lot of people that have heard of it. Their friends tell them to use it. You know, they don't know how to start with it. So it's, you know, how to take the, you know, how to install it and get started with it.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can watch hours and hours of YouTube videos, or you can spend 2 hours with me.
You got to do it too, right? I mean, you got to actually do it too.
Yeah. And so there's that. And then I have the longer one, which is a full, you know, 2 times 2 hours. So over 2 nights, 4 hours, that streamline your workflow. So that's where I get a lot more of the advanced, you know, the advanced techniques for, you know, shooting, you know, if you're shooting, I've had professional photographers that shoot NFL, CFL, you know, major league sports. And I've also had, you know, like the Olympic sports, rodeo. That one was kind of an interesting, you know, here's how we shoot rodeo. How do we organize all of, you know, anyway. So I teach the techniques on basically how to create a spreadsheet up front. And then when you put the card in the card reader, it just does all the auto magic work too.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, so yes, I teach that. That's it's under the training section on my website, sportdad.ca.
Okay.
So that there's a section on the workshops.
Yeah, absolutely. Visit sportdad.ca. Did you want to show any photos that you like specific or important to you, or?
Here, so let me. I'm going to share share screen. Are you seeing this now?
Not yet.
Okay, sorry. It's I'm not a Chrome user, so I'm going to share. There we go.
Yeah.
Go to systems. Sorry. Bear with me for a second here. Open system preferences.
This is a great time for our sponsor, Photo Mechanics. Please contact Jeff for all your workshop needs.
One thing we didn't test when we walked through this
is the actual sharing of the screen.
Yeah.
I love live television. It's the greatest thing in the world.
You know what I'm going to do? You know, rather than waste time me trying to reset this, because I'm a Safari user. My apologies for
no worries.
for this little hiccup. If you wanted to go to my website, we can steer through and take a peek.
Yeah, sure.
So my apologies for that.
No worries.
So if you want to share my screen.
Do you see the website?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So here, I'm just going to go here. I'm trying to very quickly set it on mine, but there we go. Google Chrome. There we go. Yeah. If I change the settings, it's going to clobber my connection to you. So let's not do that.
No worries.
All right. So this is the landing page on my website. So that image of the trophy, this was taken at Media Day a month before the Canadian Open. So we had the two ladies with the cotton gloves and the big case taking around the trophy, and they said, like, where do you want to take it? So we did a couple of locations. So this is the 16th tee, otherwise known as the rink. So they've got the hockey boards.
The rink, yeah.
I am laying on my stomach on the tee block, and we've got strobe light on the upper left, camera left.
Yeah. Right.
So that you know, if you're not using strobes, you're either choosing whether you're exposing for the background or your subject. Yeah. If you're using a strobe, you can expose for both.
Yeah.
So that's why you know, we're not blown out on the background and properly exposed on the trophy. So that was that, and that's the one that Golf Canada is using for you know, their press stuff. It was on their website, and you'll probably see this in the upcoming years on their website promoting the Canadian Open.
Excellent, love it.
The next one below everyone that sees this picture, how did you take that? You know,
I know.
is
I
it
asked that when I first saw it.
is it a drone?
Yeah.
Catwalk, etc.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'll come back to it, but a client in the States saw this picture. They weren't a client at the time. They were looking for a photographer, came across my website, and this happened to be the top image on my website at the time.
Right.
They saw that and it was like, we got to hire this guy.
Yeah.
So they actually flew me out to take pictures for their corporate. It was a commercial client,
Yeah.
but they wanted someone that had a slightly different view, right? Because you don't see pictures of a major league pitcher like that very often. So what I did, I was actually shooting in Denver, Colorado, and the bullpen is in the outfield.
Yeah.
So 45 minutes before the game started, I made the trek all the way around the stadium and went to the section above the bullpen.
Yeah.
And then I went to the very front row, and then I hung over as far as I could without falling over, and hung my camera out as far as I flipped the screen up and tried to, took a bunch of pictures of this guy, and did my best not to drop my camera on his head.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is literally leaning over in the bullpen, and you can't tell because everything's cropped around it so that you can't tell that it's in the bullpen.
Yeah, exactly. You think it's the actual mound.
Yeah, so that's kind of the funny story behind that one.
Oh,
Probably the image I get the most questions on.
Yeah, I think it just shows the importance of just walking around and not falling in love with like one spot. Just keep walking around, right? Because you'll get different vantage points.
Agreed. And the other thing, and I often say it when I'm speaking to other photographers, is different is good, right? Like, everyone has a picture of a pitcher taken from the third base press well or the first base press well. There are a lot of those. This is a different picture, which is what makes people stop and look.
Exactly. That's what you want. You want people to stop and look.
Yeah. So that's one of my favorite. I took that July of last year, almost exactly a year ago to the day.
Wow, excellent.
Yeah.
That's great. I think it's fantastic.
You want to roll down a little bit?
Yeah.
So this one was also in Denver.
Yeah.
And this one has 3 strobes on it. So, if I was just to take this without strobes, either the sky would be completely blown out, or you wouldn't see the eyes on the guy.
Yeah.
So we have one strobe camera left, stationary, and then 2 strobes on a pole, camera right, that is being held by an assistant that is basically like, pulling it away as the guy comes closer to him. So there are 2 strobes just outside of the frame. And I tell you, I spent about 15-20 minutes lining up exactly where I would be for this picture. And then exposing for the clouds. So the clouds were moving a bit. So I had to, kind of time, but I wanted to get an interesting sky and expose for the sky.
Yeah.
So that took like literally 20 minutes of my time preparing for this shot. And then, then I exposed with the strobes to get the, and the timing on this one, he's already hit the accelerator. So you can see that he's kicking up the dirt. Yeah. He hasn't quite planted his foot yet. Right. And I don't know if you can see it here, but the front wheel is a couple of inches off the ground.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it there. So at this workshop that I was here last year, one of the other instructors was former director of photography at Sports Illustrated. So 17 years at Sports Illustrated. Damn. So he would review 200,000 images a week just to pick the 80 for the magazine. So he's a very good editor. And his comment to me was, like the timing was all perfect and everything was great about this. He said, just too bad you didn't get lower. Yeah. And I said, my camera's on the ground. Like it's literally on the ground.
Yeah.
Not even looking through it. I flipped the screen up, and I'm looking at the back screen, and I said, "This is on the ground. To get any lower, I would have needed to dig a hole." And he
Yeah.
said, "Why didn't you dig a hole?" So it was
Yeah.
kind of like, I know what I'm doing. I'm, super
Yeah.
smart to get it right on the ground to get that low perspective.
Yeah.
And he was like, why do you have an excuse? And it's like, yeah, I should have. There was a shovel there. I
Yeah.
should have dug a hole.
Interesting.
But here here you think you've taken one of your very best shots, and it's like it could have been better.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's just the way it's always going to be. Like, I guess it can always be better, right? I mean,
Yeah,
nothing's ever perfect.
a few years ago, I actually, the very first, I did a presentation for Camera Bits, the makers of Photo Mechanic. So they
Yeah.
had me on one of their episodes, and I was showing something, and somebody later commented, there's a better way to do it. And I was like, rather than say, well, I know what I'm talking about, I know what's best. My response was, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I got on the line with the guy afterwards. Just somebody that had been watching. He was a director of photography at a large university in the States.
Yeah.
And we chatted about it, and turns out he misunderstood what I was suggesting. But he did teach me something. And if I had taken the stance that I know, I'm the subject matter expert. I'm always learning. Like, I'm constantly taking. If I'm not teaching a workshop, I'm taking a workshop.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Always learning. Yeah.
right. Like your meetups. I've attended. I've attended a number of your meetups, and I've found other photographers to work with. So I was.
Exactly.
Anyway, it's always good to network and listen. And
Yeah, that's just how you learn, right? That's just how you learn. I mean, nothing is ever perfect. But hey, I mean, but at the same time, if you take a good shot, it's a good shot. Good shot, right? So.
Yeah, do you want to roll down? There's another one here. Yeah, this is one of my favorites. This is Taylor Ruck, four Olympic medals.
Yeah.
So this is me. I actually went into the Toronto Pan Am Sports Center to photograph a swim meet, and the high performance. So the Olympic swimmers were normally training in the big competition pool, but because there was a swim meet going on, they were training in the dive tank, which is adjacent to the competition pool. So I walked in and I recognized one of the Olympic swimmers, and she recognized me, and it was like, so I like gestured, she's like, yeah, take our pictures. So I asked the coach, do you mind if I take a couple of pictures? And he kind of grumbled at me and kept coaching. So the rare opportunity to lay down on the deck, because you can't lay down on the deck during a competition. You're a tripping hazard.
Okay.
So, this, and because it's the dive tank, it's 10 meters deep. That's why the water's so blue. And I'm like 15 feet away from her with a 300 mil, shooting at 2.8. Anyway, so yeah, this is one of my favorites. I've actually, it's printed and on my wall just above my computer. And it's also just a plug here. It's this way. It's also a skin on my laptop. Yeah, there we go. Skin on my laptop.
Yeah.
And that, put in a plug for a good Toronto company. It's that skin was by Gelaskins, Gelaskins, and yeah, so I've got my phone case, this, my iPad, and they did a custom one for me for one of my Pelican cases.
Oh, really?
It is the best advertising. Like when you're walking around with, you have a client talking to potential client, they walk up and see that. And it's like, I want that.
Yeah, exactly.
I want that picture of my kid. Or,
it's a good point.
So I'm actually going to do that motorcycle rider on another case.
Yeah.
And then I've got a few others. So I'm going to wrap all my my Pelican cases. Great advertising.
Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. I would.
Well,
Right?
you know, people see my logo on a case. Who cares?
Yeah, they
People
want to
see
see the
that
work, right?
picture. All of a sudden,
They
it
want to see the
sparks
work.
that. You get the. Did you take that picture? Or who's that?
Yeah, yeah, they want to see the work.
And Jelliskin's good. You know, good Toronto local company.
Yeah, support local. Jelliskins. Are they downtown? Where are they at?
They are in more the West End, but like West End of downtown.
Okay.
So they're
Jelliskins.
Dundas, near the junction. They
Yeah,
moved a year or so ago.
Okay.
And
Cool.
if you want, hit me up on my reach out to me via. You can go to my website and email me. I have a link that will get you a discount on their stuff.
Oh, excellent. We like discounts.
Even if you don't get a discount and all that sort of stuff, like go support them. They make great stuff. I've been using them for years.
Okay.
Like here's my. I even carry a picture of my son with me wherever.
There you go.
Right.
There you go. Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Speaking of like websites, we were talking the other day about the importance of having a website, right? Because some people may scoff at the idea of having a website. Oh, I'm on Instagram or what have you, and you were saying offline, well, you really should have a website if you want to, make your passion into a career, right? So maybe you want to speak about that for a couple of minutes.
Yeah. So one of the things, it's I'll backtrack a little bit. I was photographing my son's team, university team. So he was a varsity athlete. And I was the dad on the sideline taking pictures. And then I was, shooting for the school and all that good stuff. And one season I was taking all these pictures, and I got an email from a mom on the team. She wanted to make a collage of all the pictures of her son. So can I send her all the pictures and have them to me by Thursday? And this was like Tuesday.
Yeah.
And there was no please, no thank you, no would you, no do you have time? It was like, I want pictures of my son, have them to me in 2 days. And I'm like, wow. I had a job, right? And so I'm chatting with the IT guy at work. This was obviously years ago. And he said, well, just put up a website. So whenever someone is asking for a picture, because you get the questions all the time, like, can you email that to me? And I was like, no, go to my website. And if you want, as I did, I've got a shopping cart. So if you want a picture, you can buy it. You can either buy a print or a download and pay for it.
Yeah.
And so, a couple of weeks later, it was the Christmas holidays. So during those holidays, I decided, I built up a website, and it's super easy. There are a number of websites that are specific for photographers, lots of templates, you can, and, basically you can get started and you can, in a couple of hours, have a website going.
Plug and play. Because I was saying that, we're on Instagram and all that, but I mean, there's you could have 100 photos on your account. Whereas on your website, it should only be your best work ever.
The thing that I've heard many times is, your portfolio is only as good as the worst picture on it.
Yeah, well, exactly.
So, I've got probably 1,000+ pictures on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I can tell you some of them are kind of clunkers, right? Like they're not the greatest, but it was important to support the local team, that, all that sort of stuff, right? Like, and shout out to the coach. It's not a studio image of the coach, but the club really wants that, and it helps pay the bills, right?
Yeah.
But someone's going to look at that and go, "Wow, you think that's great work?" It's an okay picture that I could have taken with a phone.
Yeah.
So your website really should represent your best work, and who you are, where you're located, and what you shoot, and examples of your best work.
Yeah.
So coming back, I created that website. And then even before I quit the corporate world, I got a call from a swim club, not far from, where I live, and said, would you like to photograph our club? Sure. Have you ever shot swimming? No. And they said, that's, that's okay. Your stuff looks good. So I said, well, tell you what, next time your kid's at the pool, Tell me when, and I'll go to
Yeah.
the pool, and we'll see if we can, see if I can take any, anything good. My very first frame is still in my portfolio today.
No, that's cool, man.
And my
First
very
frame
first
that you
frame of
took.
swimming.
Damn.
And, I didn't know who this kid was. I just, was testing out the settings, took a picture of this kid, and it was like, it worked. So I posted it, and then, next meet, this kid walks out and said, that was that was me. I love your picture, blah, blah, blah. So I shot him, kind of mid-career, and then I shot his very last race before he
cool.
aged out and went to university.
So, that's interesting.
But, the swim club found my website.
Exactly.
So I then, was shooting I was shooting meets for this swim club, and, another club saw one of my pictures, and they hired me, and then, and so on and so on and so on. And then I photographed for my second club. I photographed a kid at a meet and delivered the pictures. And a week later, I get an email from the mom saying, "You've just ruined all our family pictures. You need to come to Barrie and photograph all the other grandkids. So we have equally good pictures." Well, one of the kids was a golfer. So Barrie Country Club, his kids hitting out of a bunker, not really hitting balls. I'm not stupid to stand in front of a 10-year-old firing balls at me.
Yeah.
But I posted that picture on Instagram, and Golf Canada saw it and then went to my website, because I always ask, how did you find me? Yeah. And they hired me, and I've been shooting for them since.
What a story.
And then last summer, I took a picture of some golfers, and FootJoy saw one of the pictures, and they wanted to use it, and they hired me.
Yeah.
So it just kind of is building and building and building. And I can give you a couple of, there was the director of photography, the former director of photography, Sports Illustrated, as well as a director of sports photography at Getty Images. Both of them, in the same conversation, they said, if you don't have a website, they won't look at you.
Yeah.
If somebody is, sends an Instagram link, they don't look.
No.
Right. And it's, it's kind of the minimum. And the website that I use, SmugMug, the web platform, I think the entry level is like $60 a year.
Yeah.
And if you can't afford that,
you shouldn't be in photography.
Yeah.
You should, I mean, so if you Google sports photography Ontario, Jeff's website comes up the first result. Like, that is power in itself, when you're like the first hit.
And I always ask, every time someone calls me or emails me, and we're having a conversation, I said, how'd you find me?
Yeah.
And they typically tell me it's like action photography or sports photographer Ontario or something like that. And I always listen to what they say, and I make sure that I kind of double down on those keywords. So my biggest single shoot, they were searching action photographer Ontario,
right?
And they were the client is in Seattle, Washington. And found my website, saw my work, liked that picture of the pitcher, and said, we got to hire this guy. And so they did. So they flew me out to take pictures for them.
Yeah. So did you SEO the website, or did you get someone else to SEO your website?
I don't pay anyone to do it for me. One of the things, one of the beautiful things about using Photo Mechanic is it's super easy to add metadata to images. So, for example, tomorrow I'm going to shoot for a soccer club.
Yeah.
Backing up a bit, there was a company in the States that runs soccer tournaments across North America, and they reached out to me last August and said, hey, we're running a tournament near Toronto. Can you shoot it for us?
Yeah.
Sure. And I said, send me the schedule,
right.
And send me the list of sponsors that you have. And he's like, why? And I said, well, I'll add all the sponsors' names to the metadata and all the images. So if someone is searching, whatever, these keywords will allow that picture to show up. And they're like, wow, like we've never had anyone do that for us.
Cool.
So, I did, and I'm going to shoot for them again this year when they have the tournament return. But a couple of the clubs that I happen to be shooting, because I'm not shooting any specific clubs, I was just getting kind of hero images for the event.
Yeah.
Two of the clubs said, "Hey, can you shoot us? Are you going to be at the Ontario Championships?" And I said, "No, not yet."
Yeah.
So two of the clubs hired me to go and shoot them in the provincial finals, and one of them hired me a couple of weeks ago. They were in a tournament here, and then the other one that's out in Scarborough, I've shot for them 4 or 5 times so far this year, and I'm going tomorrow morning. They have some European pro players coming to run a camp with them.
Okay.
So I'm going to shoot tomorrow morning, and that's all metadata. The power of the metadata that this company in the States found me.
Yeah.
I was able to put, club names on all the images from the tournament. And then the clubs found me and said, "Hey, can you, shoot these?" And that turns into more and more work. And that's, the powerful keywording is what serves me well in terms of SEO, back to your original question.
Right.
So
photo mechanics is basically the answer.
It's you can add keywords in Lightroom.
Yeah.
But that's not the right tool.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can build a house with a butter knife, but there are better tools.
Yeah.
So Photo Mechanic allows me to have rich sets of metadata, which serves well on the Google search engine.
Yeah.
Another important point, I think we talked about this. The age of your website is also a factor in your ranking. So if you're thinking about it, if you're planning on doing it next year, go and get a website now, even if it just has your name and your email address on it.
Yeah.
Because you want to establish it so that it has, it's been around longer, which will rank it higher. So if you took my website, exactly the same, if you duplicated it on a brand new website, I rank number 1 for Toronto or Ontario sports photographers. That duplicate website would rank probably on page 3.
Yeah, interesting.
Because of because my website's been around for I think 8-9 years now, something like that.
Yeah.
So $60. Stop thinking about it. Do it.
Just get it.
Yeah, and as I said, like I use SmugMug, and the basic plan is $60 or was, a couple of years ago. Maybe even if it's $100 now, that's nothing.
Well, I mean, it's basically like the cost to entry, right? Because you got to spend money to make money. So.
Yeah, and sports photography, there's a lot of spending money.
Yeah. Maybe kind of segue into gear. What's the gear that you use now?
I've been shooting with Nikon since 1987.
Shout out Nikon.
My first camera was a graduation gift from school, and it was part of the flesh out that story. My mom bought me a graduation gift. It was a Nikon camera.
Nice.
And then my mom bought me, when I became a professional, like full time, my mom bought me my my D5.
Yeah.
And I sold that D5 about an hour and a half ago. So somebody just left the house. So I'm a little emotional about selling my D5 that my mom bought me.
Wow.
But I now use Nikon Z7s, or Z7 is that camera. But I have 2 Z9s.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients and students are American, so I'm used to saying Z9.
Z9s and Z9.
Yeah, so it's the flagship mirrorless camera for Nikon. It's unreal. Like it's just it's a crazy camera. I know Canon makes awesome cameras. Sony makes awesome cameras. depending on what your criteria is, the Z9 is considered generally probably the best camera out there right now.
Yeah, nice.
Particularly for sports. So like my D5 would shoot 14 frames a second. My Z9 will do 30 frames a second, full JPEG, 20 frames a second, full RAW. Or if I go with a smaller JPEG, I can shoot 120 frames a second with autofocus on.
Yeah.
So, it gives you some crazy shots, like shooting baseball, the ball on bat is kind of the unicorn shot. You can be shooting it for years and not get a ball on bat shot.
Yeah.
With a Z9, it would take one or two batters. You're going to get it.
You're going to get it.
120 frames. You'll get it. You're going to get it. And, when I was shooting golf last year before the Z9 was out, I was shooting with the Z7, Z7.
Yeah.
Because mirrorless is quiet, which is what you need for golf, right?
Yeah.
So I'm shooting with that, and it was like 7 frames a second.
Okay.
So you get the backstroke, and then you get 1 or 2 shots where where the impact and then the ball is in frame, maybe 1 or 2 shots. And because of the lag with the mirrorless viewfinder, like the electronic viewfinder, it's very hard to time.
Yeah.
Well, this thing is just like and like
done.
It's just crazy, and there's no lag because it's meant for sports.
Yeah.
So there's no lag. So what you're seeing on the viewfinder it's very much like an optical viewfinder. So what you're seeing is actually what's live. Cool. Yeah, it's kind of like cheating.
Yeah.
So you get to focus on the more technical aspects of the shot, like your composition. You don't have to worry about the autofocus because the camera just goes, oh, you're taking the picture of that person. It locks onto the eye.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
So, and now when I'm doing portrait photography, I don't need to, kind of scroll the
focus,
the focus button to try and hit the eye. And if the person moves, then you gotta,
oh my God.
Right. I just compose to make sure that they're in the frame, and the camera like locks on the eye. So that soccer shoot that I did last week, I had like 1,500 pictures for the day.
Right.
A dozen were out of focus.
Yeah.
And that's because there was such wild movement and I moved or something. But if they're out of 1,000+ pictures, there are maybe 10 that are out of focus. And when I mean in focus, I mean tack sharp.
Yeah.
Because it's not, if the athlete's doing this, right, it's not focused on the hand and you're counting on the depth of field to get the face. Yeah. It's locked on the eye.
Locked on the eye, yeah. That's nice. That's power, man.
And Sony has it and Canon has it now. So, the tools are getting so much better. Yeah. I happen to be a Nikon photographer and I've always been a Nikon photographer.
All right.
And that's not to throw shade at Sony or Canon. They all have, they do this, like, they're constantly.
It never ends.
So, 6 months from now, Sony's going to come out with something, and 3 months from now, Canon's going to come out with something, and then.
Yeah, it just never ends.
Yeah. But
you just got to be happy with what you're using too, right?
Yeah, and it's a bit of an investment. And with sports photography, the glass is expensive.
Yeah.
Because you're typically long lenses and fast lenses. So typically, like the slowest lens I have is a 2.8.
Mm-hmm.
So everything's and that means big glass and expensive glass. But that also you reflect that in the prices you get to charge.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe segue into pricing. Like, how do you any advice for people that are starting to get into the pricing game? Like, any tips?
Yeah, you get that question a lot. I asked that question a lot when I was starting. How do you price? Right?
How do you price? Don't want to go too low. Don't want to go too high. But
I've when I first started and I was posting my pictures on Facebook. So I was giving them away free, and then I decided to start charging. Well, there was a backlash. People were like, "What do you mean you're charging?"
Yeah.
So I experimented with pricing, and I even at one point went to $3 a picture. And I remember one guy was a coach's, the coach, the other coach, bought one picture, an entire season, $3, one picture, and because they were screen cap, like everyone was screen grabbing them. So now my model is I get paid first. I don't even show up unless I've been paid first, right?
Okay.
So there's that model. But to get started, you have to build a portfolio and you have to take a lot of pictures. So you take pictures, but don't give them away free.
Never.
So if you are going, you contact a club or a school and say, hey, can I come and take pictures? Give them 1 or 2 pictures. To say thank you, but don't give them like 500 pictures because why would they ever pay you?
Exactly.
So give them 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And then if they see value, then, hire me to come back.
Exactly.
So, there are photographers, some that I've worked with that charge $10,000 a picture. There's one of the guys shoots with his iPhone and he shoots for National Geographic. If you want one of his pictures to repost on your Instagram, it's 10 grand US.
Is it shot on his iPhone?
Yeah. He's unreal. He's one of the most talented photographers I've ever seen or met. And his work is unreal. And he shoots it with an iPhone. And for National Geographic. But 10,000. So 10,000 just to repost one of his pictures.
Holy moly. So
some of some of my work, for example, when I first started, my very first time swimming, when I said, I think I referred to it earlier, I'll come and see if I can take pictures. Yeah. Well, a bunch of parents pooled some money and they each gave me $20. Yeah. So I was getting $20 to photograph their kid for the afternoon. So I said, yeah, I think I can do this. The club said, yeah, we think you can do this. So I charged $40 for me to photograph their kids, over the weekend. And then I think the next year I said $60. And then the next year it was like $60 a race. And that club told me, you'll never get anyone ever, ever, ever will pay you $60 for a race. Mm-hmm. Well, I now charge upwards of $300 for a race. And that race might be 90 seconds.
Yeah.
And that club that said you'll never get, well, I don't shoot for them anymore.
No.
Because, I was the guy that was the $20 photographer, then the $40 photographer.
Yeah.
Now it's, upwards of 300. And, but now clearly my work is better now than it was when, it's $20 or $40.
Yeah.
But, part of it is the perception. And we talked about this, the whole perception thing. Yeah. I often get asked like, oh, you shoot swimming. Have you shot Michael Phelps or Penny Electric? And it's like, I've not shot Michael Phelps. He's in the States, but Penny, yeah, I've got pictures of her. But who's gonna want them, right? Like, whereas if I'm photographing a swim meet and it's a 9-year-old girl in her very first race, I've got pictures. Literally the kid on the diving block, diving in, her goggles, falling off, filling up with water and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And, that's something that will never, that first race will never happen again.
A moment.
And the parents, parents pay good money for, to have that photographed. So I literally will make more money photographing a local swim meet for a local club than I would photographing like an Olympic event.
Yeah, it's interesting.
There's cachet in the professional level.
Yeah.
So having the cachet of being able to show in a portfolio a Major League Baseball player.
Yeah.
Means that all of a sudden I'm not just a guy with a camera. Can you come out and shoot my kid for $40? Mm-hmm. Now all of a sudden it's like, hey, you're this level of a photographer, $500 to come and shoot my kid's game. That's more reasonable if you have that cachet. But if I had a nickel for every time someone said, how do I get to shoot pro sports? I'm just starting out. Yeah. I want to shoot for the NFL. I want to shoot for the Blue Jays, or I want to shoot the Leafs. Well, good luck with that. right? Because it's a pyramid, and it's a very big pyramid, and there are only very few people at the top that get to shoot that stuff. So it's a progression. You got to just go to the local park and shoot some.
Like I always keep saying, like, you don't need to wait to practice. You can go anywhere and practice.
Just go to the local. Yeah, go to the. We have neighbors who just moved in, just next door to us.
Yeah.
They're here for a few. They escaped from Ukraine, so Canada has embraced them, and long story short, they found out today that I was a sports photographer, and the 10-year-old daughter is a competitive rhythmic gymnast.
Cool.
So they're like, oh, you're a photographer, and they break out their Instagram and all that. Yeah. And the dad was a competitive archer back in Ukraine. And anyway, so we're going to go across the street to the park and take some pictures of the kid. I'm going to take the strobe lights. We're going to have this, the cityscape of Toronto in the background.
Nice.
And her doing her rhythmic gymnastics in the park with the cityscape in the background.
Nice.
And that kind of stuff. Obviously I have no intention of charging. I would not accept money from them for that. But that's the kind of work, personal projects, kind of investing in yourself to try new techniques and learn new things. So.
Yeah, absolutely. No, wow. Great. It's great. Kim has a question. Would you use a Sony lens on the Nikon Z9 with a new adapter?
Would you use a Sony lens
on a Nikon 9
with the new I'm not aware of an adapter that will allow a Sony lens on a Xenon, because they're different systems. Would I? You know what? I'm not the best one to answer that, because all my lenses are Nikon, right? I'm part of Nikon Professional Services, so like all my gear is Nikon. So Nikon lenses, Nikon adapters, Nikon bodies. My lighting is all Pro Photo. So I don't use Nikon speed lights. My studio strobes and all that are Pro Photo. So I don't know the answer to that. Sorry, Kim. I wish I knew. Would I? If it worked, sure.
If it gets you the shot.
Yeah.
Gets you the shot. Yeah, it would.
Yeah. I actually was at Nikon this afternoon. I picked up an 800. 800. It's big.
Big, heavy,
because I don't know if it's going to happen. Tonight's supposed to be the biggest full moon of the year, and like Lake Ontario is like right out my window here. So that view is kind of towards Buffalo. That view is so I step out into the park. There's a cityscape. So I'm going to take the 800. I want to shoot the moon if it's not covered by the clouds, but I'm going to do a cityscape where I'm going to be doing like multiple pictures with the 800. So I'm probably going to end up with about 40 pictures, and then stitch them together. And I want to make like a 6-foot panoramic and print it on metal.
Damn. And you're going to frame that somewhere?
Oh yeah, that, that would be, the technology. There aren't going to be that many pictures like that, because the technology really, because the ability of the Z9, Z9 with an 800. So I've got the 800 from Nikon for the next week.
Fun.
So I'm going to walk across when it gets dark out. I want actually the best time I ever saw to take that picture was about 4:45 in the morning. My dog had to pee.
Yeah.
Gets me up. So I stagger across the street, and I'm walking, and it looked like the city was on fire. The sky was orange and red. It was unreal. Now I'm just not a morning person. So I should have run back and got the camera. But
you didn't do it.
After the dog peed, I went back to bed. But now with the 800,
when you got up, did you say, "Man, I should have taken that photo"?
Yeah, well, for the next week, I'm going to be staying up late and getting up early to take those pictures, because I really want part of one of one of the pieces of advice that I got from the guy from Sports Illustrated was, you know, you want peak action, right? So eyes and ball, you know, is kind of, you want the peak action. You want sense of place.
Okay.
Right. And, you know, kind of tell the story. Tears and cheers is the other thing, right? You need the emotion. So sense of place. One of the things that I want to do is get the Toronto cityscape, and then use it when I'm doing some composite work, and have the cityscape as, you know, like if I'm shooting a Toronto swim meet, and it's, you know, there are athletes from across the country, I can do a composite image that will superimpose, where, you know, kind of in the background have part of the cityscape.
Cool.
But I want to take that picture. I don't want to use someone else's picture. Anyway,
interesting.
All part of the. Were there any other questions? We appreciate the questions coming in. So it's not just two guys chatting.
Good question, Kim. Yeah, I mean, you sort of answered it, but I was going to ask, like, what's like a good tip for composition in sports, but you sort of just answered it there. You know,
in the States, the fake backgrounds with the lightning bolts and the flames and all of that sort of stuff. I can't tell you how much I hate that.
Yeah,
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah.
It's just not real. And it's just personal preference. Like if you know, someone was to offer, you know, if I was just a parent and you know, they were doing, I hate that kind of stuff. It seems to be, and not to be derogatory, it just seems to be an American thing.
Yeah.
In Canada, we don't do that as much, and also in the States, like, you know, a big business is senior photos. When I first heard the term, I thought they meant old people. Like I literally, I thought senior photos were grandma and grandpa. But it's a huge business in the States, and then you know, the fake backgrounds with the, as I said, like, you know, the fake field, the fake stadium lights, lightning bolts and flames. And I don't like that.
Like a movie poster.
What I prefer is like the real background. So if you're taking a picture of a baseball player, have them on a baseball diamond, but light it with strobes.
Yeah.
So the background is actually the genuine field.
Exactly.
So that's kind of more my style. But if I'm doing some sort of composite work, I've seen some that I quite like that use the cityscape. I think Diving Canada did that. They had, you know, a very faint, so you can kind of make out in the CN Tower, right? Like, so I want to do that. Anyway, but it's also just fun to go across the park, and because tonight, if the clouds go away, this park will be full of photographers across the street from me.
I bet. Eh? So tonight's the biggest full moon of the year. Eh?
Yep.
Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a full moon, and it's the closest to the Earth for a full or new moon for the year. Like, I sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I just read that today.
Yeah. Did you see the images from the James Webb telescope thing?
Oh, that's crazy.
Did you see that stuff? Like,
yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
That's on that.
That's that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, $7 billion and 20 years to build.
Yeah. But man, those photos look good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty expensive glass. Oh man. Well, we're up against the hour, so don't want to take up too much of your time, Jeff. Thanks again for taking the time. So much knowledge. If people are listening or watching now or in the future, July, what's the date? July 15th, 8 p.m. Jeff's going to be on our Zoom with Get Out Shoot Toronto. Going to be teaching the fundamentals, ISO, shutter aperture, how to get out of auto, all that good stuff. So if you want to join.
Yeah, there was a new photographer that was saying, you know, like he shoots in program mode because he doesn't know how to use his camera, but he wanted, you know, how do I, so it's like, let's answer that for a bunch of new photographers.
I think you know, if you don't know, it is a little bit intimidating, but I think once you understand the concept and actually start practicing, I think that's the key. You need to.
That's what we'll teach on Friday. Yeah.
Yeah. So Friday, I think Kim might join, And yeah, so that'll be Friday. And any final thoughts for the viewers, listeners, Jeff?
Go out and shoot.
Yeah.
Go out and shoot.
Exactly.
Practice, practice,
Yeah.
practice. And my favorite thing is, shoot low. So
Right.
change your perspective, shoot low, shoot early, because if you wait for the peak action, you'll miss it.
Yeah.
And, different is good.
Yeah. Love it. Good tips. Yeah, definitely cannot miss it. Yeah, Kim's going to be on the Zoom. Exactly. Excellent. Thanks again, Jeff, for your time. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday for something else. And Jeff, hang on. Just hang on when we go offline for a minute.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you next week. Have a great evening.